Okay, so have you ever like put on an article of clothing and you're just like, wow, this fits amazingly?
Happens all the time.
Right. But like, have you ever stopped and thought about how much skill goes into getting that perfect fit?
It's incredible, isn't it?
Today we're doing a deep dive into the world of clothing cutters. You know, those often unsung heroes of fashion.
The ones behind the scenes making it all happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've got some super insightful resources from RoleCatcher.
Oh, yeah. They're a career development platform.
Right. And their stuff goes way beyond just, the basics of what this job is.
It's fascinating stuff.
So to kick things off, how about we define clothing cutter? What are we actually talking about here?
Okay, so essentially, a clothing cutter takes raw materials, mostly fabrics, all different kinds,
Right.
and transforms them into the clothes that we wear. So they're kind of like this bridge between the designer's blueprint
Makes sense.
and the actual physical garment.
Okay, that makes sense. But it still seems, I don't know, kind of simplistic. I mean, there's got to be more to it than just cutting fabric into shapes, right?
Oh, absolutely. The source really emphasizes the precision involved in this role. Think about it. You might have to calibrate a cutting machine one way for like a delicate silk chiffon,
Oh, wow, yeah.
and then totally differently for something like a thick denim.
Right, right.
And if you get it wrong, you're talking about ruining really expensive material. It's high stakes.
I never even thought about it that way. So it's not just about being good with scissors, it's understanding how different fabrics behave too.
Exactly. A deep, deep knowledge of textiles is absolutely essential. In fact, the guide even mentions that even experienced clothing cutters, they can still be challenged by new or unusual fabrics. It's like, imagine trying to wrangle some slippery satin or like a thick wool.
I can't even imagine.
It's a constant learning process.
So it sounds like you need like the steady hand of a surgeon, but also the problem-solving skills of an engineer.
That's such a good comparison.
Right.
They need to be incredibly detail-oriented, able to understand these intricate blueprints,
Yeah.
and then execute these cuts perfectly.
And speaking of technology, the RoleCatcher source, they mentioned how automation is like totally changing the clothing industry,
Yeah, it's really interesting.
which makes you wonder, like, are robots going to be replacing those steady hands we were talking about?
That is the big question, isn't it?
Right.
How will automation affect such a hands-on profession?
Yeah, like, will it enhance the clothing cutter's skills or will it just replace them?
Right.
It's kind of mind-blowing to think about. But, okay, let's say you have the skills, you've got the tech know-how, and you love precision cutting. What's the career path actually look like?
So RoleCatcher actually gives us some good insights on this.
Okay.
They lay out a pretty clear progression from entry level all the way up to senior positions.
Okay, so walk us through those stages.
Okay.
What are the key milestones along the way?
All right, so picture this. You're fresh out of training, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
You land an entry-level role, maybe as an assistant to a more experienced cutter.
Okay.
And at this point, it's all about learning the ropes, mastering those blueprints, getting a feel for different fabrics, and you're part of a team.
Yeah.
You get to see these garments come to life.
Which is so cool, by the way.
Oh, it's got to be incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, there's something so satisfying about seeing a project from like start to finish.
Absolutely.
So you're building your skills, you're paying your dues. What's that next step up the ladder?
So as you gain experience, you might become a junior clothing cutter.
Yeah.
Now you're cutting more independently, interpreting those blueprints on your own, maybe even training newcomers.
Wow.
And just imagine seeing someone else master a technique that you taught them.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about job satisfaction.
That's awesome. Talk about moving up in the world, right? From assisting to leading. That's some serious growth.
For sure.
But what about those who like reach the top? What does a seasoned clothing cutter's career look like?
Okay, so now you're a senior clothing cutter.
Okay.
Years down the line, you're not just cutting fabric anymore.
Right.
You're overseeing the entire production line.
Right.
Collaborating with designers, optimizing efficiency. You're mentoring a whole team.
Wow.
You've gone from, those technical skills to being a leader and an innovator.
That's incredible. It's amazing to see how much room for growth there is in this job. But let's be real. How do you even break into this industry? Is it all like fashion school and crazy competitive internships?
It can be, but RoleCatcher actually highlights that it's pretty accessible.
Oh,
While
yeah.
a design degree is definitely a plus, a high school diploma combined with some vocational training or specialized courses can be a great starting point.
So it's more attainable than I initially thought, which is encouraging for, anyone who loves fashion and is like really good with detail. But
Exactly.
it sounds like hands-on experience is really key.
Absolutely. The source really emphasizes that nothing beats real-world experience.
Right.
Internships, apprenticeships, even starting as an assistant, that's invaluable.
It makes sense. You can read about fabrics and cutting techniques, but
Yep.
actually feeling the difference between like silk and satin,
Right.
or like understanding how each one behaves under the blade, that's where the real expertise comes in.
Exactly. And we can't forget about a strong portfolio.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Imagine you're walking into an interview and you have actual garments that you've cut.
Mm.
That shows your precision, your attention to detail.
Yeah.
That makes an impression.
Right, it's like your resume, but in real life.
Exactly.
You're not just listing skills, you're demonstrating your passion and abilities with like tangible results.
Right. Yep.
Totally.
It's one thing to have the skills, but like being able to show them off in a portfolio, that's huge.
It really makes a difference. Shows you've got that real world experience.
This whole deep dive has been so eye-opening.
Mhm.
It's amazing how much goes into making the clothes we wear. I mean, we never even think about it.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate the artistry, the skill, every seam, every dart. It's impressive.
Right. Like next time I'm getting dressed, I'm going to be thinking about those clothing cutters, all those steps from like the first blueprint to what I'm wearing. And maybe even thinking about those bigger questions we talked about, like technology, automation, what's fashion going to look like down the line?
That's so true. Will we all be wearing clothes made entirely by robots someday? Or, like, will there always be a need for that human touch, that eye for detail you can't program?
Such a fascinating thing to think about. No easy answers there. But important to keep those conversations going, right? Tech is changing everything.
For sure. Well said. We've really covered it all today, from precision cutting to, like, those big picture industry trends. It's been a wild ride through the world of clothing cutters.
It really has. Loved diving into all this with you.
Me too. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everybody. Until next time, keep those creative sparks flying.